Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through some introductions. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we're BITRIX24 Gold Partners. So what we do is we specialize in helping businesses with BITRIX24. We're based in the UK, the US, and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to assist you with BITRIX24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help you to evaluate BITRIX, see if it is a good fit for your critical requirements. If it is, we can then help to set up the system so we can build out BITRIX to your specific requirements and then onboard your team with training and ongoing dedicated support to ensure you get the most possible value out of the BITRIX24 system. And if you are interested in the self-hosted edition of BITRIX, then we can provide our hosting service for you. Okay, so if you are coming to today's webinar to actually learn more about BITRIX24 in general, let's just go through what BITRIX24 actually is. Okay, so BITRIX24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business and organizations. There are over 15 million businesses now that use BITRIX24 around the world, and it's available in two different editions. Okay, so we have the BITRIX24 Cloud, and then we also have the BITRIX24 self-hosted solution. And when we say self-hosted, it doesn't mean you have to host it on a local server. It essentially can be a private cloud instance of BITRIX24 that you can access wherever you are. In terms of prices, so prices start from $49 per month for a cloud-based license and $3,590 for the self-hosted edition. That starts at the Business 50 edition, and you can scale up depending on how many users you have. And then in year 2 and ongoing annually with the self-hosted, you then pay a renewal fee, which is approximately 25% of the original license fee. Okay, so today's webinar is HR Toolkit. So we're going to be looking at all of the features and functionality inside BITRIX24 that you can use for managing your HR processes. So before we go in and deep dive into those features, let's just review really why you should use BITRIX24 for your HR needs. So BITRIX24 has a really nice and easy UI for managing all of your employees' information. From a profile for each user, they can then manage their work time and have personal areas for contracts and appraisal documents, and you can set permissions on those documents. You also have your employee repository where you can see your company structure and drill down to find specific employees that you can then collaborate with inside the system. We also have self-service forms for managing different types of HR processes, such as absence requests. It could be expenses, purchase requests, or even onboarding new employees through your own customizable workflow. So we'll take a look at that in today's webinar. And then we also have custom processes like you see there as an onboarding process. So we'll see how we can use the standard HR functionality, but also how you can really customize these features to enable you to manage all of your HR processes inside BITRIX24. Okay, so let's take a look now and deep dive into some of the core HR tools within BITRIX24. So we'll start off looking at the profile and company structure. We'll then move on to look at some of the time management features where you can track and record your working day inside the system. Then we'll move on to look at personal drives and how you can share information with specific people within the organization. And we'll then look at the employee engagement features, which are really important in BITRIX to allow you to collaborate with all of your colleagues wherever they are in the world. BITRIX has the tools to enable you to collaborate very efficiently and effectively. And then we'll take a look at some of those self-service forms and processes that we can run inside BITRIX. Okay, so here we are in our BITRIX24 system. Now, as we go through today's session, I will point out if you need to be on a specific tier of BITRIX24 license to enable you to access the particular feature that we're talking about. But essentially, if I don't mention that, then it's available on all the tiers of BITRIX24. And just to explain here, we're in the browser edition of BITRIX, but BITRIX24 also includes a desktop application, and there is a mobile device as well. Okay, so first of all, in the HR Toolkit webinar, let's drill down and take a look at the employee's profile page. So within the system, each employee has their own profile where they can store information about themselves. So inside here, if we click into Sam Smith's profile, we can see here the contact information for Sam Smith. So we've got some details here about the employee. And as this is my profile, I can then create custom fields if I wanted to store some additional information inside the system here. And I can see below here, I've also got my team of people that I manage and my supervisors. So all of the additional information about my context within the business, it's available inside my profile. And we'll take a look at the absence management feature later on, but here, using our plugin tool available for the on-premise edition of BITRIX, I can see my leave entitlement inside my profile. So that's a custom feature we've developed here at Interface. And what's really nice in the employee profile area is you've got shortcuts to lots of different areas of your BITRIX24 system. So I can click into tasks and it will drill down that straight into my task management area of the system. So I can now manage and view all of my tasks that I'm working on, even drill down into the individual projects as well. I can go straight into my calendar and view all of my meetings and events for the day. And I can drill down into my drive space and see my documents. So it's a really nice area within the employee profile to have shortcuts to all of the different core modules that you need access to inside BITRIX24. Okay, so let's look at an individual employee's profile, and you can see just below here, this is the online section, so I can see who from our team is also on BITRIX24 at any given time. So that's quite a nice feature, just to quickly see who's available, if I need to speak with someone, I can see if they're online immediately using that profile there. And you can also use the universal search tool as well. So if I wanted to find an employee's profile and information, I could drill through our universal search, and you can see under employees, I can then see Mark, and I can then enter their profile page using the full search area there. And let's now go into the company structure. Inside here, this is a really nice high level overview of the organization. So this is what we call the company structure, which is essentially a chart that's an overview of all of the department structures within the organization. So I can see all of the departments, and then you can also have sub departments below here. So where we've got technical, we then have our two production departments below there. And what you can do is you can add each user to their relevant department, or it could be multiple departments that you want to add them to. So you can add employees to different departments inside the system. You're not limited to the one department. And this isn't just it's a really useful tool as an overview of the organization. So I can see who is associated with what departments, and I can then drill down into the employee database here. So I can see all of the employees, their details and information. And I'm an administrator on this page, so I can customize the UI here for the rest of the company, and I can select what pieces of information I want to show. So actually, I might want to show what skills each employee has, so I can then set up that information in the page here. And you can then drill down through all of this data. So let's say actually I want to, if I'm a new employee, for example, I want to drill down and see who is associated with payroll inside the business, and I can drill down to that information. Now, with each employee that's in your BITRIX, you can collaborate with them. So you have a feature within the system here called chats and calls. So what you can do with any other users in BITRIX, you can set up individual chats. You can do group chats, and that can be through instant messaging. You can do video calls, and you can do voice calls as well. So there's different ways you can collaborate. So I can see here Mark has sent me a message. So let's now reply to Mark. Okay, so you can see the instant chat that we're having here, but then I could turn that instant chat into a video or a voice call, and all that history it's saved inside the system here, so I can drill down and find specific information from my chats, and I can see all of my chats inside my chat area here. So it's a really powerful collaboration tool that you can use to communicate with employees through the system. And one last thing to point out with the company structure is you can use this for actually running your workflow, so such as approval processes. Okay, so if, for example, in the finance team, if I submit a holiday request, that might go to John Smith, who's the head of the overall accounts department, to approve or reject that request in the system. So you can use the company structure for a lot of approval processes. It's not simply a UI tool to be able to view information. There is workflow logic in the background that you can use around the company structure process. Okay, so that is a look at the company structure. And now let's take a look at the time management features available inside BITRIX24. So each user in BITRIX, we can set up our work time. Okay, so what we can do is we can assign shifts to specific employees or to whole organizations and departments. So inside here, we can set up a schedule for the working day, what time they need to be clocked in and when they can clock out, and then the amount of break that they can have each working day. And we can then assign that specific shifts to a specific group of people. And what we can then have our teams do is they can clock in and clock out. So we can record their working day in BITRIX24. And what you can do is you can set up your essentially violation process inside here. So you might want to have a very strict clock in and clock out schedule. So if the user is not clocked in by 9:30, so we give them half an hour leeway, then we're going to be notifying specific people inside the business that the employee has not clocked in. Or you can set up more flexible tracking parameters as well. And the employee can clock in either via the web browser, or you could also turn on the setting if you allow them to clock in via a mobile app as well. So you can customize essentially how and where the employee can clock in from. And so if we now go and look at what this looks like for an employee, so here an employee clocking in on the web browser, so they're currently on their break time, so we can come off our break, and now you can see that we are recording our working day inside the system. And what we can also have is a daily summary. So inside here, you can compose a brief report on the work that's been completed each working day. Okay, so we can save that information for our summary, and then once we're ready to clock out, we can then clock out for the working day, and all that information will then be recorded inside the work time reporting section. So I can see the amount of time that the employee has been working for each day, so I can see when they clocked in, when they clocked out. We'll be able to see their reports and all the information about the tasks that they've completed. So you get this really high level overview, which is a really nice view of each person's working day. And what you can also do in terms of clocking in is you can also record time on a lower level on specific tasks that you are working on. Okay, so if we go into our tasks, so BITRIX has a really powerful task management feature. You can also record time on your tasks as well. So you either have that high level overview for your working day, or you can go lower level and record time on specific tasks as well. So you can start the time tracker here to record your time, or you can also manually enter time as well onto a task. So if you didn't want to record your time, you could add it back into here. And then that time can be added into the task. Okay, so you can then also record time on a lower level basis as well. Okay, another really powerful and really used area for HR within BITRIX is the Drive area. So the Drive module is essentially your repository library where you can store documents and information inside the system. So if I wanted to add documents, I can click in the Add button here, and then I could add files or connect with external applications as well. And then all of that documentation is stored here in my personal Drive area. And what I can do with any documents, I can assign access rights. So I can see here, Mary and John have full access to this document, but nobody else inside the organization has access right now. What I can do is I could, again, share this with individual users or specific departments. So let's say if I wanted to share this with our HR manager, Claire, I could add Claire into here and I can decide what level of access they have on that document. So you can really control the permission functionality within the Drive module. And another feature within here as well is you can also see the revision history. So any changes that are made to the document, you'll be able to see all of that history inside the system here, and then you can restore back to a previous version if maybe you're not happy with the latest change that has taken place. And then we also have our company drive. So this is essentially the overall company repository system. So you can create folders inside the system here, and then you can have those folders set up again with permission. So if you wanted to have like a HR area, we can then store all of the HR documents in there and set access rights to control who's able to access any of those folders inside the system. Okay, and if you do have any questions about any of the areas we're looking at today, please do add them into the YouTube question box, or you can email us sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to speak with you and to answer your questions. Okay, so let's look at the Drive area, and just to mention, alongside the Drive, you also have a calendar area as well, which is broken down in a similar format. And first of all, you have your own personal calendar, where all of the events and meetings you're connected with can be stored in your personal calendar. You can also synchronize with external calendars inside the system. And then we also have a company-wide calendar, which we can add all of our company-wide events into, and you can also drill down into individual calendars through the calendar settings here. Okay, so if I wanted to create a new event, I can click on create and then create that event inside the system. So we're going to have a staff meeting next week. I can add the time into here, and then I can select who I want to attend the event. So it may be individual users or it may be whole departments. So I'm going to add all of the production team into the event, and that will then be added into everyone's calendars. Okay, so that is a look at the calendar space. That's again really useful features using the Drive and the calendar area that you can use. And then moving on, let's take a look at the feed section. Okay, so in terms of employee engagement, this is where BITRIX24 can be really incredibly valuable. If you've got teams who are in different jurisdictions or locations, you can use these engagement tools to really collaborate effectively with all of your employees. So if I just explain first of all what the feed is, this is essentially your own personalized intranet board. So anything you're associated with, whether it's a communication, whether it's someone assigning you a task, or if a workflow has been sent to you to approve, that will display in your personal feed section. And so within here, I can send out messages. So let's say if I want to send a sales message out to everyone in the sales department, so I can search for that department. Okay, so I'm going to send this message out to everyone in the sales team, and that will then be posted out to everyone in that company structure who's in the sales department. They're now going to receive that message. So I mentioned how that company structure is not just used for UI purposes, it's used in lots of different areas of BITRIX. So now everyone in the sales team will receive that message, and you can like these messages, you can collaborate on these and post back, you can tag people as well. And so you can have whole collaborations on each individual post. And within here as well, you can also then create tasks and assign those to staff in the system. You can create events like we've just seen in the calendar. So you don't just have to be in the calendar to create events. You can do it directly from the feed section. A really nice feature here is you can create polls. Okay, so let's say if I want some people to vote for what they would like to do for the staff summer party. So let's ask barbecue. Okay, so let's now send this out to all of our employees. And then what we can then have is an interactive poll where everyone in the organization can select their appropriate summer party idea. And let's now send that out to all of our team. Okay, so I'm going to have my vote first of all. And then if we have a look at this from another employee's UI, then let's go into their BITRIX. And we can see that post in the system here. So there's the poll that we can then select from. So I'm going to select Sports Day here. Okay, so let's send that message back. So you can see that engagement process. It's really effective using these different types of tools that we can use to collaborate. So it's not just a case of sending out a blank message. There's different types of posts that you can submit through the feed. So we can see Mark's voters come through. So it's a really interactive way to engage with your employees. And another really nice feature here is appreciation. So if someone's done a really good job, you can send them a badge inside the system here. So let's send this to Mark. But I want all of our employees to be aware of this. Okay, so let's now post this out, and that badge that will now be added to Mark's profile page. So that will then get added up to their profile. And so it's a really nice way to engage with your employees and to improve the motivation amongst your team. So I can see that badge has now gone through to Mark, and that will then be added into Mark's profile page. So if we go down into here, we can then see the badges that they have been awarded. So really helps to keep staff motivated. So when people are doing a good job, you can send them an appreciation badge. And lastly, here we have the announcements. Okay, so let's say if the office is going to be closed. I'm going to send this to all employees. And we're going to show this announcement for 1 week so you can customize how long this message is displayed for. And what's important with an announcement is essentially it's critical information. So you can force the user to mark that they have read that message. So you can see here now, I need to physically mark that I have read that message, and that will then display on the system here. So I can see now that this has been viewed and marked as read by those specific people. So that's a really key feature. If you have critical information that you need to get across to your teams and departments, the announcement feature is a very useful tool. And that is showing how using the feed, there are lots of different varieties of ways you can post information to your staff within the organization. So that can really help to improve employee engagement. And there's also a company pulse. So essentially the company pulse analyzes the overall use of your BITRIX system on an individual basis and on a company-wide basis. So here we can see which areas of the system are being utilized most. So you can choose your date range. So I can see here the drive is not being used very heavily at all. So I might want to then post a message out to everyone to make them aware to use the drive, what the benefits are of the drive area, and that will improve overall usage of that area of the BITRIX24 system. Okay, so that is a look there at some of the HR tools, and now we're going to move on to look at some of the self-service forms that we can create and manage inside BITRIX24. So this allows you to essentially run your very own HR workflows and processes directly through the BITRIX24 system. So we're going to have a look at how we can run absence requests, so we can manage holiday leave inside the system. We'll then see how we can create projects using a unified process to reduce human error and improve the overall speed of the project creation. And then we'll see how we can manage the employee onboarding process using your own customized workflow inside BITRIX24. Okay, so the first workflow we'll look at here is how we can run a leave approval workflow inside BITRIX24. So if you want to run a workflow, we do have a webinar that solely looks at business processes and workflows in detail. So if you have questions in this area, then you can join us on that webinar. But this is to give you a flavor of some of the HR workflows that you can run in the system. So if I open up the workflow area, this opens up the different types of workflows that I can select from, and this can be customized. So you might want to show more workflows here. You might want to reduce the number that are accessible. That can be customized. But in this example here, we're going to click on the request leave form because I want to book some holiday leave inside the system. And this then opens up the form that I now need to complete. So you can see here, we've got specific fields that need to be completed. So I can add my start date and my end date into here. And I need to put in the reason for my leave. And this form here, that can be customized. So you might want to add more mandatory fields or maybe customize what pieces of information need to be inputted. That can be completely customized. And now I'm going to submit that holiday request inside the system. And what we can see now is that has now gone to my manager to either approve or to reject. And again, on here, I could add a message just to add some additional context. Okay, so I'm going to add that into the system there. And then if we go back into the managers area, if we go into the automation section, this is where all of the workflows you're associated with, where there is some type of approval process that you need to action. This is where you'll see all of those inside the system. So I can see Mark's request, it's come through, and I can see the time and what they're wanting to have off. And what we can do if we go back into the company structure, I can go into the time and reports area and we can click into the absence chart. And this will show all of the holiday requests or any types of absences. So you can have different types of absence type here that you can run. And I can see all of those for the organization as a whole. I can see no one's got any time off in May, so I'm happy to approve Mark's request. So I'm going to approve that inside the system, and that has now been actioned. And now Mark is going to be notified that the request has been approved inside the system. But let's just take a look at that workflow. I'm just going to show you what we call the business process designer tool. So you can see that's now been actioned and approved. But if we go into the workflow directory, I just want to show you how that looks in the back end of the BITRIX24 system. Okay, so this is the workflow we've just run on the front end. This is in the background where this is what we call the business process designer tool. And essentially this allows you to customize and create your very own workflows inside the system. So here, this is where we originally requested that leave, and then it went to the supervisor to either approve or reject inside the system. So we approved that process there. So that's now configured down this left-hand side. So it was added to the absence chart, and the user was going to be notified that the approval has been approved. But if it was rejected, it would go, that's another condition. So it will go down another workflow inside here. So that would just notify the requester that the leave has been denied. So you can completely customize your process here. You've got all of the different action blocks on the right hand side here. So let's say if I wanted to add another condition into here, I could add that into there, start to build out additional approval processes, for example. So you can use the business process tool to have really simplified workflows, or you might want really robust and advanced workflows across the entire organization built into the system here. You have that scalability with the business process designer tool to complete that. Okay, so let's look at the business process designer tool. And another type of workflow that is very popular that you can run is for managing the creation of projects. Okay, so we do have a webinar where we focus entirely on projects and how you can create projects in the system. It can be a fairly manual process if you're needing to add all the different tasks connected to the project. But what you can again do is you could run a workflow. So then specific people, specific tasks are automatically created and applied to the project. So it can save significant amounts of time and it can reduce human error that could be added into creating a project. So let's say for here, let's add a new project name. Okay, so we're adding our project title. I'm going to select the manager for the project. We also have a designer role for the project as well. And we'll add when the deadline for the project is. And then we can add a description. So you've got certain fields again that are mandatory, some that are additional. Okay. And then we can see here we've got the project type. So this is essentially a condition. So depending on the type of project we select here, that's going to bring in specific tasks that need to be completed within that project. So if you've got lots of different types of projects, you could add all of those different types into here as conditions, and that will then automate what types of tasks are then created automatically into the project and what specific people are also added into the project. So let's now submit that project creation request. So it's a really simplified form that you've got there. And now I, as the owner of the project, I'm going to add additional details for the project and approve the setup. And what we'll see now is that we'll automatically create the project inside the system here. So if I go into our project management tool here, and if we select our HR toolkit, you'll see that project has automatically been created inside the project management area, and it's created the specific tasks that now need to be completed in the system, and we can then record and manage all of those tasks inside the project. So a really useful way to manage the creation of projects inside BITRIX24. Okay, and lastly, we'll look at how we can manage the onboarding of our employees inside the system. So this is using what we call the robotic process automation tool. So here you can create the stages for the onboarding of your employees through the system. So if I'm going to be onboarding a new employee, let's add their details into the system here. Okay, we'll add that holiday allowance and a type of employee they are. So this is all customized fields that you can configure to your specific requirements. And we'll add the start date for the employee. So now we begin the onboarding, and now it's automatically moved over to the HR team who need to complete their specific tasks. Within the background here, we've got different stages that we progress the workflow through, and at each stage you've got specific actions that need to be completed by different departments and the specific pieces of information that we need them to input, such as here what equipment they need regarding the IT infrastructure. So you can ensure at each stage of the onboarding process the critical information is captured inside the system. So I can see here when the onboarding started, we've got the page here with all of the information. I can see right now it's with Andy, who is managing the selection of their manager and the IT setup requirements. So if we look at Andy's BITRIX system, we can see in there they've now been assigned a task to onboard Danielle. So we can click into there, and then we can see all of the information about the person. We can then select their manager, and I need to input, it's a mandatory piece of information. I need to confirm what equipment they need regarding IT. Okay, so we can add all of that information. So at each stage of the onboarding process, you can ensure the critical information it's captured throughout that onboarding life cycle. And then if we go back into the Danielle's onboarding, we can say that's been completed, and it's automatically updated now to the IT setup stage, where the IT team will now complete their bits, so we can see what equipment they need for the IT. So the IT team now know what equipment's required, and they can then start working on that. So that's like a high level look at then how we could manage the whole onboarding workflow, but also the offboarding as well, or any other type of HR workflow. You could use these tools to manage that at a really nice high level, and then assign automated tasks to the relevant team within the organization. Okay, so that is today's HR Toolkit webinar. So in summary, we've seen how we can use the profile and company structure for managing all of our employees. We've looked at the time management tools where we can manage each user's working day, but also the lower level tasks and recording the amount of time spent on those tasks. You've got personal drive areas and calendars to manage your details and documents. And we've got those employee engagement tools where we can send out different types of posts, from chats to announcements and appreciations to collaborate with our employees. We can set access rights across all different areas of the system. And then we've looked at the self-service form tools, such as the Business Process Designer tool. And to use those self-service forms using the Business Process Designer tool, you do need to have at least a professional cloud license. And then we've seen there the robotic process automation tools, where you can design out your own bespoke HR workflows using BITRIX24. Okay, so thank you very much for joining today's HR Toolkit webinar. You can register at intraface.com/webinars to register for all of our up and coming webinars inside, looking at all different areas of BITRIX24. So I hope you're able to join us for those webinars in the future. Thank you very much for your time today. Bye for now.